Hi folks, my name is Mark Thiele. I'm here to talk about data center certification and what that means, what concerns us the most and what we see as the opportunity associated with certifying the data center. So determining the need or the opportunity, right now, as Mark pointed out, as several other folks have pointed out, we've got any number of areas of opportunity to look at how we measure the data center, but we don't have a single place we can go to say this is the package of tools you need in order to validate whether your data center is running efficiently or whether it's got a good baseline or whether your people are trained effectively, et cetera. And that's a major weakness. So beyond that, what are some of the benefits of being able to say your data center is certified? Well, it's user recognition, right? It's the customer being able to say that I'm doing the right things by my company and for myself to ensure that my data center operation is efficient. And kind of a side opportunity that we see is running throughout Data Center Pulse, but potentially an opportunity specifically with certification, is to help drive the faster adoption of new technologies. And for those of you here from the industry or listening from the industry perspective, this is really, I believe, one of the best opportunities for us, because we in the user community see a lot of great technologies, and some of us that have adopted them go to these sessions, whether it's an event somewhere or we talk with other partners or customers or just peers, and we don't understand why there's confusion or myth or issue still about using an airside economizer or using DC power or whatever it is, and yet some of these technologies have been in use and proven in many areas for many years. But the adoption is oftentimes anywhere from 3 to 7 years for these new technologies. And if we really want to make the industry move forward, we need to help change that. We need to shrink that window down to closer to 18 to 36 months. So breakdown of discussion, hurdles and difficulties here. As I pointed out, we've got a lot of organizations that have metrics and measures. Anything from ASHRAE to Green Grid to the federal government to our own offices for requirements of sustainability, et cetera, but we don't have anything that ties that together, right? There's nothing that says that you're running a smart data center. How do we create that package? What's the criteria for this target, right? Is it the knowledge of the people? Is it the implementation strategy that you've executed on? Is it the technologies that you've chosen? Is it some combination of all of those things? And whose metrics should you use? If there's going to be a package of metrics, whose metrics should you use and how do you combine them? How do you weigh them? So breakdown of the discussion overall relative to concerns and opportunities. Defining or differing infrastructure requirements for every company, right? So I think a couple other folks already touched on this, and that's that, for a company of 100 people with 10 servers, their measure of performance for their servers is going to be very different from a company that's got 1,000 people. And they've got a higher level of redundancy requirement in their data center and a higher hurdles for IT to get through testing of their equipment and of their new applications that are coming to market. So it's, how do you weigh that, right? You can't say that one's good and one's bad because the one that's got 1,000 people is protecting its business. So that's got to be factored into this. It's got to be flexible enough to do that. Maintaining the certification. Right now you can get LEED certified, but there's no guarantee that 5 years from now or even 3 years later you're still theoretically qualified as a LEED certified structure. So how do we maintain that certification and ensure that if you've got a sticker on the outside of your building that says you're certified, that in fact 5 years later that still applies? Rapid technology change. So Dean messed up my slides, but that's supposed to be a moving target. But the fact is that technology changes on a regular basis these days. So if you've qualified or validated or certified a data center today based on X technologies, whatever they are, consolidation to better platform of servers, fanless servers, airside economization, virtualization, and then next year there's something cooler, well, then you can't come back to me next year and say, Mark, your data center is not the best anymore because you didn't adopt this new technology. It has to be factored into the strategy somewhere. No single technology or solution that measures across the entire data center, right? So right now, when we look at the data center, most IT people, and I think even many facilities folks would tell you that there's just way too many panes of glass to look through. From the IT perspective specifically, there's a look into the network environment, there's a look into your applications, There's a look into the potential performance of some of your systems, your hardware systems. There's a look into bandwidth utilization. There's any number of panes. There's a look into your virtual environment. There's any number of panes that you have to look through to get an understanding. And then somehow, are you supposed to just magically take all the data from that and to get an understanding of what your data center is actually doing? It's virtually impossible, right? And then you take, on top of that, you add the fact that on the facility side, they've got any number of tools that measure what's going on the facility as well, from power management to performance of the air conditioning units to everything. Right? And how do you marry that to say my data center is operating efficiently through a single pane of glass? And we have a significant lack of baseline standards. And how do we apply the metrics that we already have to develop that baseline? Or do we need new metrics? So that first bullet there, right? Develop a baseline methodology for the data center. Work with the DOE to help define the direction of their activities. So right now the DOE is working on people certification relative to data centers. And I think that's a clear opportunity for DCP and the community at large to help influence where that goes and to potentially help identify the opportunity and strategy for defining one that's for the facility as well. And there are other bodies that are also interested in this, from the EPA to, International Association of IEA in Europe. I apologize, I can't remember the acronym. So we'd want to talk to them, and we'd want to talk to the same folks that are doing similar strategies in Asia. Do we want to create a kind of a knowledge level certification, right? Is that an alternate certification? Is it in addition to? Is it an augmentation? But going back to that idea of implementing capabilities and opportunities that are available to you today, many of us aren't doing it because we don't have the knowledge we need of the industry or of the product or of the service. We don't understand how to do risk analysis on that product. We don't understand how to do the cost benefit and present it to management. We can't get past our own assumptions. We've believed the myths that we've heard from other people over coffee or at some session from 5 years ago. So a big part of what we're doing here is we need to challenge our assumptions, and we need to break those myths, and we need to get the right information in front of people so that we can speed that adoption. And then, the last bullet I want to talk about here is that, again, that holistic tool that consolidates the view of the data center. I'd really, to simplify this as much as possible, I'd really like effectively a gas gauge for my data center. I want to look at it and I want it to tell me that I'm at 81%, and then I drill into it and it tells me that I've gone over in my disk utilization or I've gone over in my air handler utilization and I need to add more capacity. Or I need to turn on that extra unit that I have sitting idle, whatever it is, and I can get that gas gauge to move back down again. That's really as simple as it needs to get to.